Of all video game franchises to ever exist, I don't think any of them have had as many installments as Final Fantasy. A quick Google search will say there have been 95 games, but I'm pretty sure that number includes a few re-releases and bundles as separate installments. Regardless, between the mainline numbered releases and the respective spin-offs, Final Fantasy has seen a preposterous amount of games since the original release in 1987. Aside from the upcoming Final Fantasy XVI and their ongoing MMO Final Fantasy XIV, one of Square Enix's bigger projects in recent years has been the multi-part remake of the fan-favorite Final Fantasy VII. The first part of this remake was released in 2020 and appears to be expanding and delving deeper into the story of this world. As the second part of this remake draws nearer, Square Enix remastered and recently released the prequel spin-off Crisis Core. Originally released in 2007 on the PSP, Crisis Core puts you in the shoes of Zack Fair in the years leading up to the events of Final Fantasy VII. As part of Soldier, the elite private military of Shinra, a powerful megacorporation, Zack learns of his friend and mentor's defection along with another first-class soldier. Zack and Sephiroth are tasked with tracking them down and killing them. Along the way, Shinra's secrets will be discovered, and newly discovered truths will guide characters down opposing paths. I'll be speaking of this game from the position of having never played the original version, nor have I completed the original Final Fantasy VII, so I've been quite enthusiastic about being able to experience the story through the remake, and I'm excited to continue that experience in the upcoming second part. All of this being said, I feel that releasing Crisis Core between Part 1 and 2 of the remake made a lot of sense, as it offered new insights and perspective on various characters in the main story, primarily that of Cloud Strife, who fails to qualify for Soldier and thus becomes a simple infantryman, later taken under Zack's wing, ultimately leading to the character he becomes as the main protagonist of Final Fantasy VII. And now I'm eager to replay Part 1 before Part 2 comes out. Compared to other Final Fantasy games, the RPG elements in Crisis Core are quite simplified, and particularly well suited to newcomers who don't have a tremendous amount of experience with RPGs. The weapon and outfit used by Zack is tied to and dependent on your progress in the story. The only pieces of equipment you're responsible for managing are materia and accessories. For those unfamiliar, materia are orbs that can be acquired that allow characters to use various abilities, spells, summons, or provide stat boosts. Accessories also provide boosts to stats or combat perks. At the start of the game, Zack will have 2 slots for materia and 1 for an accessory, but progressing through the story and side quests will allow you to unlock a total of 6 materia slots and 4 accessory slots. If you're playing on hard mode, you'll have to be quite diligent about equipping appropriate materia and accessories. Otherwise, on normal difficulty, you'll only be pushed to be mindful of your equipment against more challenging boss enemies. In addition to unlockable equipment slots, Zack will unlock the ability to fuse materia to create rarer and more powerful materia. However, to create some of the most valuable materia, you'll need to unlock more shops that will provide certain base materia to use. Have I said materia enough? The combat system in Crisis Core, though simplified, is quite similar to that of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but with a small twist. In addition to real-time action combat, battles can be influenced by the Digital Mind Wave, or DMW. The DMW mechanic is like a slot machine perpetually rolling in the corner of the screen. It contains images of various characters and summons from the story. Each time a spin is completed, the resulting numbers and characters on any particular spin will provide Zack with some sort of combat buff, boost, or ability. These could range from temporary boosts in endurance or strength, to being able to call on the abilities of another character, or most exciting, a summon.
Ah! I won! You won! Cover it! Look at all those pennies pouring, just like if they were nickels!
The graphics and animations for summons in this remaster have received a significant improvement, making them quite cinematic and exciting to watch. The DMW may also trigger cutscenes of memories with various characters. These will increase your DMW progress with the respective character, thus increasing the strengths of the buffs and abilities associated with that character. Throughout the story, Zack will have heightened emotions related to particular characters. this will make those characters more likely to appear on the DMW wheel. Many DMW character images, materia, and accessories are unlocked through side missions. Side missions can be acquired by talking to various NPCs with orange dialogue prompts, or by progressing in the main story, and completing them will unlock successive missions. These are great opportunities to level up and acquire great equipment. However, my greatest point of criticism is in the side missions. Short of reading the description for each mission, there's little to no story or lore to be discovered by engaging in them. The only set of side missions that provide any semblance of lore are the treasure hunting missions, in which you'll meet a young version of Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII. Additionally, side missions can feel like a real slog at times, as they're extremely numerous and the maps are highly repetitive. On the upside, all that practice will greatly improve your conflict resolution skills.
Conflict resolved. Oh yeah!
In each of my videos, I make a point of discussing my criticisms, and admittedly, I struggled a little with this one, as some of them simply resulted from the limitations of being originally released on the PSP. However, after some thought, there were several criticisms I felt were worth discussing. First was the voice acting, which for the most part was not bad, but there were occasionally awkward pauses and some very cheesy voice lines. Perhaps this would be remedied by playing the game in the original Japanese, but I guess I'll find that out on my next playthrough. Next were the graphics, which again were not bad by any stretch, but they simply didn't compare to the phenomenal graphics of the main Final Fantasy VII Remake games. But it's completely understandable, as Crisis Core is a remaster, not a remake, and the graphical improvement is still outstanding. This aspect of the game was originally jarring to me since I paid absolutely zero attention to its marketing. I had already played and loved Final Fantasy VII Remake when I heard Crisis Core would be coming out, so I was already sold. I didn't need to see anything to know I would be buying this game. So once I saw that first trailer, I never went out of my way to see more. I figured I'd avoid spoilers and let the whole story be a surprise. So I just assumed Crisis Core would be receiving the same remake treatment that the main game received, partly reinforced by the use of a re-word like the remakes. Remake, rebirth, reunion, whatever, not a big deal, as the game still visually appears to be part of the same remake universe, and wouldn't even be worth mentioning if not for the remake comparison. Another limitation imposed by Crisis Core's original platform of release was the loading screens between closely connected areas. Having played on the PS5, the load times were not tremendously noticeable, but would have been nice to be removed altogether. This is perhaps the most minor grievance of my minor grievances. The one feature that I would have loved to have, and hope that Square Enix could find it in their hearts to add in an update, is a chapter selection. Especially as a game with several trophies linked to particular parts of the story, this game would have greatly benefited from such a feature. The Final Fantasy VII Remake has a chapter selection, so it would seem to be a logical fit to carry that over. As an alternative solution to this problem, for any completionists wanting to revisit certain chapters, I would recommend looking up the relevant trophies and using the various save slots at these portions of the story. Unfortunately, I only considered this option after I had already completed the game, so I'll be playing from the beginning to get my last few trophies. As I've mentioned, Crisis Core provides some interesting backstory and context around the characters and world of Final Fantasy VII. The gameplay is markedly more simplistic than the mainline series or RPGs in general. However, for a short prequel spin-off, the simplicity of its gameplay allows for a more streamlined and fast-paced experience. If you've played Final Fantasy VII Remake and are awaiting the next part, I highly recommend playing Crisis Core before Rebirth comes out, as I believe it will better contextualize characters that will become more relevant in the story to come. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Do it! Just do it!
As a prequel with simplified RPG mechanics, I would recommend this to potential newcomers as their first Final Fantasy and introduction into what is widely considered to be one of the best games ever made, Final Fantasy VII. Moving forward, I would love to see the Final Fantasy VII Remake universe made whole with a proper remake of Dirge of Cerberus. Despite its lack of popularity in the fandom, I feel a proper remake would address the issues of the original and offer a unique Final Fantasy experience. I'd also like to see remakes, remasters, and collections released of other Final Fantasy and Square Enix games. And Square Enix, please don't swoop in the middle of the night and release a limited shadow drop. I could go on about every Square Enix game I'd like to see re-released in some form, but I'd like to hear from you. Let me know in the comments which Square Enix game you'd like to see remade, remastered, re-released, whatever. If you've made it to the end of this video, please like and subscribe. It's always appreciated and lets me know that someone made it to the end. As always, I'm Pungent Funk, and I hope you'll join me in the next one.